The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated here
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my tickets!
Everybody loves Hippo Toad.
Scary dog!
Blurson and Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Do you guys think maybe we should update that TV Party Tonight background for some more updated TV characters? I mean, I'm just realizing now that it's got Doom Patrol, Scarlet Witch, Henry Cavill is the Witcher, Cobra Kai. I don't know if it's like really accurate anymore. It's like, should we get more current characters on there?
Well, Cobra Kai never dies.
He is correct about that. It could use maybe an update. I don't know. The question is, like, do you want to make it a constantly rotating thing, or do you want to do like two undeniably classic recognizable TV characters and then have a few spots that rotate? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm the one that designed it, so every time I look at it, I'm like, I don't know. Should I update it or not? I don't know.
Well, Futurama's timeless. Cobra Kai never dies. Witcher's, I think, wrapping up. Bugs Bunny is forever.
Two more seasons of Witcher, I think, are what's kind of scheduled, even though they're going to die on the vine. No one's going to watch that. But that's a whole other story.
Cavill, will you please get started on the Warhammer series already?
Dude, it's just pre-production stuff because he's not going to let that whole thing be just VFX.
Thank God.
One, I agree. Like having physical stuff for the Warhammer 40K universe is very important. It's also very intricate and time-consuming to get all that stuff ready.
I'm not on the 40K train, but yeah, don't screw that up, guys.
Please don't.
Anyways, welcome to ADHD, the podcast.
Yeah, speaking of not screwing things up, Shōgun.
Thank you for joining us tonight on TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, Alexis Hejna. Joining me, one of my fellow members of the Unholy Trinity and fellow horror junkie, Mr. Robert Winfree. Hello.
Hello.
Glad to see you pulled yourself back out after reviewing Fall Guy this week.
That was a decent enough podcast between Mark and I. So if you're interested in our thoughts on the #1 movie in the United States this last weekend, even though it opened soft, and we spent the first 40 minutes of that podcast not talking about the movie, but talking about the history of the summer blockbuster kickoff season. We had a good time.
Sign.
Yeah. And next week, we will be discussing about how that thing quickly got erased because Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is coming out, and we all know that's going to take #1.
I think we're off next week because Mark has a thing, but then the week after is when we'll be doing Apes.
All right, because I remember he doesn't have me on for Apes, but I think I volunteered to do Garfield for a second Damn You Hollywood that week.
Yes, that's in. Yeah, that I don't have your Garfield one on my schedule yet, but some of that just needs to be updated on the calendar.
I'll double check with Mark.
Yeah, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is set for the 20th of May.
Right.
So again, Mark's got a thing this coming weekend, and wasn't going to be able to make it in time to our regular recording. And it turns out there's nothing of real note coming out the week after Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, so we're just doing it a week later.
Fair enough. Joining us also tonight is probably the only person who's going to have any idea what the hell we're talking about with this show, Mr. David Wright. Hello. Always a joy to have you on.
Always fun to be here.
Hope I'm not putting too much pressure on you.
No. I've got a bottle. Things are fine.
Bottle of what?
Milk.
Okay.
It's not a bag of milk. Well,
No.
He lives in Canada. Come on, they're not a total third world country.
We used to have milk in bags. Yeah.
That's where the joke comes from, is that like Toronto would sell bagged milk.
I know.
Not just Toronto, but yeah. But yeah, we don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So yes, we are discussing Shōgun, the hit miniseries on FX based on the novel by James Clavell, brought to us by, where's the production team on this? Gate 34, Michael DeLuca Productions, and FXP, airing on FX on Hulu. Tells the story of, quote, the collision of two ambitious men from different worlds. We have John Blackthorne, a risk-taking English sailor who ends up shipwrecked in Japan, a land whose unfamiliar culture will ultimately redefine him, and Lord Taranaga, a shrewd, powerful daimyo at odds with his own dangerous political rivals. We also have Lady Mariko, a woman with invaluable skill but dishonorable family ties who must prove her value and her allegiance. This show took off to wild acclaim. People absolutely loved it, especially compared to the 1980s miniseries that apparently a lot of people want to forget about. I think the only noteworthy part of that was that it had Orson Welles narrating, and he's awesome in everything he does.
Hey, John Rhys Davies was also in it.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, John Rhys Davies and not Wilt, the other Chamberlain, the actor, Richard Chamberlain's in it. And because that was the entire middle portion of Richard Chamberlain's career was just TV miniseries.
All right, but yeah, this got critical acclaim across the board. Currently sitting at 99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Who's the one?
Yeah.
I am not digging through all those things to find the one. Okay,
That's fair.
Yeah. So I just like to remind you that 9 out of 10 doctors believe the 10th is an idiot.
That's true.
Very true. All right. So, yes, we're going to talk briefly about the show. It is an amazing series. It is gorgeous. You better have one hell of an attention span while watching it, because 90% of this show is in subtitles. There is no dubbed version. I'm sorry for all you anime fans who prefer dubbing. Raise your hands.
I can do either.
I confess, I'm more of a dub girl. I'm sorry.
No shame. I judge not about how people's preferences on that.
There are good arguments for both. I will say I prefer the Cowboy Bebop dub to subtitled, but I mean that's the best dub ever made. So
yeah, it really is.
Also Hellsing. It just makes more sense having British people voicing British characters.
That's true. Okay. I assume you do original Hellsing or Hellsing Ultimate.
I'd say both.
Okay, thank you. I've met so many people who just can't stand, who get pissy about the original, but I actually very much enjoy both of them as well. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm a bit less of a fan of when it kind of veers off from the manga and we get incognito and all that stuff. But up till then, it's super solid.
Well, that's where the manga was like done at that point, so they had to kind of come up with their own ending. And rather than introduce all the Nazis. Not a joke. Nazis.
Yep. Empire Nazis.
Yep. Because Hellsing is bonkers and wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what was that phrase, David? Subtlety is for cowards?
Yes.
Subtext is for cowards.
Subtext is for cowards. That was it.
Cowards. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's the line.
That was from Garth Marenghi, the only author who's written more books than he's read.
I'm stealing that insult at some point in the future.
No, he was bragging about it. Seriously, everyone, if you have not watched Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, look for it. It's on YouTube for free, I'm sure.
I might have to.
All right. So, yes, this takes place in 1600 Japan. The Taiko has... By the way, if you've watched me hosting TV Party Tonight, you know that I have a tendency to completely massacre foreign name pronunciation. So I'm just going to put up a giant banner right now that says I don't know half of the names I'm saying here. So when
you're not marked, you're safe.
For the record, I've done enough podcasts with Mark where I have jokingly made him repronounce names of across the gambit. I've made him do it to Polish names. I've made him do it to Chinese or Japanese names, occasionally different parts of South America, because it amuses me.
See, the difference is I actually openly put up a sign that says I'm not insulting and I'm not illiterate. I'm just an idiot.
Yeah, I think just culturally we should just accept that people are going to mispronounce names. It's okay. It doesn't mean they're bad. Can we just all agree on that as a society? No more name mispronunciation disclaimers. Let's give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
I'm still too terrified to go out without a disclaimer.
The only disclaimer you need is that you're doing your best and none of this is done in bad faith, and we're good from there.
Damn Skippy. So yes, 1600 Japan. The Taiko has recently died, leaving the rule split among 5 equal regions who protect the Taiko's child heir, who is too young to take the throne, living in Osaka Castle. Our focus starts on Lord Yoshi Toranaga, played by Hiroyuki Sanada. This man is, I believe the phrase I saw tossed around in more than one review was the Tom Cruise of Japan. Now, of course, if you are not a fan of Japanese cinema, he has been in more than his fair share of American films as well. Recently, we saw him return as Mortal in the new Mortal Kombat movie as Hayo a scorpion.
There you go. He's Scorpion. It's okay.
And it begins. We saw him in a brief role in John Wick 4. He was really good in that. I had a list.
If you want to jump slightly in the Wayback Machine, he's in The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise.
Even though I think a lot of us like to forget that movie ever existed. Bullet Train. He was in Bullet Train. Had a brief part in Avengers Endgame. He was in the Wolverine. He was in the freaking Speed Racer movie.
That movie is a fever dream, and I choose to forget most of it.
Don't we all?
Well, I thought it was pretty good.
It's that somewhere between that and the Kill Bill franchise is the closest you'll ever get to a live action anime.
No, my problem with the Speed Racer movie isn't so much the movie itself. It's just that it is nothing but neon lights blasting. It's like Meow Wolf condensed into one capsule and shot into your eyes. It's
they went for it.
Yeah, it is just crazy, over the top, oversaturated.
Yep.
All right, but yes, he blows us away as Toranaga. Toranaga is such an interesting character because we don't really see him go on much of an arc. In a way, he is a force of nature to this series. Everything that happens to him, he always seems to be 2 steps ahead of it. We never see him look surprised. We have moments where he looks like he's surrendering and he's giving the opposition with a 1, and everyone is going, "What are you doing? What is wrong with you?" And he never lets on, "Oh, don't worry. I know exactly what I'm doing," because he doesn't know who to trust and he doesn't know who's going to betray him. But he always knows what's going on. Like I said, Toranaga is not a man. He is a hurricane. And we are all just victims, just dealing with his whims.
Yeah, it's again, Sanada has been a very good actor for a very long time. Just sadly, kind of has flown under the radar to the majority of people for a really long time, and I'm glad he's getting.
Japan.
Yeah. I'm glad he's getting some more recognition for this. There's an art form to subtle acting, and he nails it here. I think the scene in particular that strikes me is when he's announcing his surrender and Hiromatsu commits suicide. There's so much between just those 2 actors that is just in the eyes, just in the face. Neither's doing a lot of, big gesticulations. There's passion to the line delivery, but it's not comical. It's not over the top. And everything in that scene just bespeaks the deep, deep history and personal connection that these 2 characters have. And it is a wonderful, wonderful scene. If you have any doubts about the man's acting ability, that scene in particular.
Yeah, that was definitely his Oscar scene.
Yeah. Emmy in this case, but yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean.
Yeah, no, this man, this show needs to win so many freaking Emmys next year.
Oh yeah.
Costuming,
production design, so
cinematography. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For a show that has
all of the actors.
Yeah, like for a show that has a very sort of dim, washed out palette. Like I swear, I don't think you see the sun at all throughout the runtime of this show.
It does feel like everything's overcast.
Yeah,
But
all the time. But it still manages to squeeze like beauty out of all of that. It's
Yeah.
like the film that Zack Snyder thinks he's making.
yeah, in
Very
terms of
much so.
just again the color paletting and whatnot, yeah, you're exactly right.
Absolutely. We also have Cosmo Jarvis as Pilot Major John Blackthorne, who becomes known as Anjin, the Japanese word for pilot, who I started watching this and couldn't help but think, so you just decided to channel Tom Hardy for this, right?
A little bit. There's some Tom Hardy affectation there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, you can channel worse than one of the best actors going right now. So
Mhm.
No argument.
Yeah, I thought he did very good with the role.
Absolutely. He is more or less also the eyes and the ears of the audience. He is the one who is experiencing this culture for the first time. He is the one who is learning how to survive. So, for many of us who are not familiar with Japanese culture, we are following him and learning as he does, which one of the things I really loved about the shows, again, I am not familiar with Japanese culture to the extent of what I learn outside the local ramen house. So I went into this terrified that I was going to be left in the dust. This show does an amazing job not only teaching so much of the culture to Blackthorn so that the audience also learns as well, but presenting it in a way that you can easily understand. You really get through the concept of their culture, what they do, how they eat, how they dress, what is respectable, what is not respectable. It's so well done like that. This is a really great show for that.
Yeah, well, I'd add the caveat that this is 16th century Japanese nobility culture.
true.
So it's a bit of a different world than you would experience in like modern day, amongst regular people in Japan. Like even the way they speak is very formal. Like that is not how people speak Japanese now. Like I mean, it is the same language, but it would be like a Japanese person watching Shakespeare. I guess it's English, but people don't really talk like that. This is how aristocrats, spoke in that particular time period.
Which,
true, but it's still
doing that. There's nothing I hate more than anachronistic language.
Oh yeah, it really adds so much to the show that like whenever the characters are like the characters that can't speak English don't speak English, and it feels very authentic. And like I remember like watching like the Karate Kid Part 2, and yeah, obviously everyone speaks English when Daniel's around because Daniel doesn't speak any Japanese. But then they'll have like a scene where like Mr. Miyagi's talking to like the lady of the house, and they're still speaking in English. And it's like they wouldn't be speaking English in this situation. They'd be speaking Japanese. I mean, I get it. We don't want to burden people with subtitles, especially back when these movies were made. But it just really does feel a lot more authentic with them speaking Japanese all the time, unless you have like Mariko translating or the other translator. And even when some of the lords that do speak a bit of English speak, it sounds like they're actually a Japanese person speaking English, like someone who doesn't use the language that much, even though they're actually technically supposed to be speaking Portuguese.
Yeah, which might have been a bridge too far if they kept that accurate as well.
No kidding.
I'll forgive them for that one, but yeah.
Yeah, no, if they kept it completely accurate to the book, then this whole show would have been subtitled.
And they would have had to cast actors, at least a couple of actors who spoke both Portuguese rather than Brazilian Portuguese, or a couple of places in Africa, or Portuguese first languages, and like actual Portuguese, and could speak Japanese. And that kind of like serious multilingualism is just a bit of an ask these days.
I do like that they confirmed, though, that even though we hear English, they confirmed that they're speaking Portuguese.
Yeah.
Especially since
I think the only time you're getting in universe English to English is the Englishmen on the ship talking to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Because they could have done it where they just changed it and said that they're speaking English and been like, oh, okay, so they're speaking English. But then you have the scenes with the Portuguese Catholics speaking to one another, and obviously they wouldn't be speaking English.
Yeah, they'd be speaking Portuguese or Latin. Yeah,
Depending
they
on-
don't do a Hunt for Red October. We zoom in on them speaking Russian, and then we zoom out and they're speaking English, so everyone gets what's going on. I mean, again, I totally get why they did that.
I call that doing a Battlefield Earth.
Fair enough. Yeah, so
You're
there's
not-
not enough overacting.
And the camera never goes Dutch, so
Yes. Well,
Thank
while you were,
God.
I was learning how to. I was conquering planets while you were learning how to spell your
Spell
name.
your name.
Seriously, watch that movie. Imagining it's just John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker like trying to outact each other, and it's a blast.
you had everyone involved in that had to have had fun making it, because otherwise there's no excuse.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah. So Shōgun.
All right. Again, going through the main characters, we also have Todo Moriko. She is a highborn woman. She is the main translator for Blackthorn, and of course, she is also his love interest.
Mhm.
Their relationship, I would say, is probably the most dynamic one in the series.
Yeah.
They're not only are they from two very different worlds, Mariko is married, but she is in a very loveless marriage. She was basically given to this samurai warrior as a token to say,
Well,
yeah, start.
it was a political marriage,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but also
yeah.
one to because a lot of the characters in Shogun are based off of actual historical characters in Japanese
Mhm.
history, and
Yeah.
part of the fun for me was like figuring out who's who, and like a lot of the heraldry is kept the same even though the names are changed. So like Toranaga is actually Tokugawa Ieyasu, who's a very famous person in the show, and we learned that Mariko's father like killed his lord, and in this, like, I forget all the alternate names, but in this case she's descendant of Akechi Mitsuhide, who famously killed Oda Nobunaga, who was I get a little context here. So where this takes place in Japanese history is like Japan is technically ruled by the emperor, like he's the head of state of Japan, considered son of the gods, yada yada yada. But you have under the emperor is the shogun, which is like a title of like a general. And the shogun basically is the one who really holds all the power and runs things, but they do so in the name of the emperor. So everyone will fight. Well, so all the civil warring that happens in Japan is everyone is doing it in the emperor's name. It's like, the shogun's not doing their job right. I'm going to step in. I'm going to take over and run things right. And it's because of this reason that Japan actually has the longest unbroken family line in their royal family, because the emperor's never been assassinated or taken over. So we had the previous shogunate, the Ashikaga shogunate, I think it was. It fell apart because empires rise and fall, and there were three main lords that were able to sort of take the splintered Japan and reunite it under one banner. The first being Oda Nobunaga, who was a bit of a brute, like not the nicest of guys, but he knew how to run a military. And he was eventually betrayed by one of his generals, Akechi Mitsuhide, and assassinated. He was like locked in a temple and basically burned. So that's Mariko's father. And then after Nobunaga, one of his servants, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who is now the Taiko that they refer to in this show, he took over and he basically finished Nobunaga's job. And then we have the passing of the Taiko, and then sort of the power vacuum left, and then we get to the last one, Tokugawa Ieyasu, who was sort of an ally to Nobunaga and Hideyoshi, but he was sort of biding his time, waiting to make his move. And it was sort of, there's this kind of old joke that like there's like a songbird that they're trying to get to sing, and all three of the unifiers are in the room, and Nobunaga would say, kill it. Then Hideyoshi's response was, make it want to, and then Ieyasu says, wait. And so this is kind of where we're at here is, so Mariko, so in this story, Mariko's father, he knew he was going to kill Nobunaga. So he married her off to a samurai under one of the other banners, so she would be protected by that family name, so that when revenge came for him and Hideyoshi hunted Mitsuhide down and killed him, she would not be killed with him and his family.
Even though, as we see throughout the series, she constantly asks for death.
Yeah, she still bears the shame from the family, and yeah, it's well the episode when yeah, it seems like all is lost, and Toranaga is trying like doing his surrender, and everyone is just trying to commit suicide. Yeah, but like you have Buntaro, her husband. Yeah, he comes like, please allow me to kill myself and my wife, or no, he wants to kill the Anjin because he's sleeping with my
Yeah.
wife, and yeah, then you just get Mariko, and she's like, yeah, what's your place? And all she's like, I just want you to let me die. And it's like, why does everybody want to die all of a sudden?
See, you talk about how she bears the shame. I thought she was bearing the grief. That was the way. That was the way the character. That was the way I took the character.
Because you saw like when they're having dinner with Buntaro, like he tells her like, hey, have you told the Anjin of your dishonor? And then she explains the situation, which, I mean, what is he going to care? It's like, okay, so your old boss was a jerk and your father killed him. So what? But
I do love that scene, though, because we have the bit where Blackthorn points out that when Englishmen drink, they do not drink from those tiny little glasses. They drink from big glasses.
Yeah.
And he insists on, suddenly well, I don't know what was in the dish that he threw out. I'm guessing it was like soup or something, or broth.
Soup, yeah.
Yeah, throws it out, pours the sake into it, and Buntaro's just essentially turns into a freaking cock measuring contest, and Buntaro's like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, well, you had that, Buntaro, he, as Toranaga is trying to escape from Osaka, he basically like does the last stand on the docks, and he and yeah, like
really good scene, by the way.
Excellent scene. Like you're just like, the dude, he is a badass, and as far as we know, he's dead. And that's when we have Mariko and Blackthorn. They they make out, they pillow, and then Toranaga comes back. It's like, oh shoot, he's alive. So and he figures it out pretty quickly that the two is kind of being a dick to Blackthorn. So Blackthorn's like, all right, let's do this. Let's see how you, and you can't challenge him to a sword fight because you get murdered because Buntaro's that much of a badass.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So it's just, let's have a drinking competition.
But that isn't what's so interesting about Blackthorn and Mariko's relationship, is because obviously these two have feelings for each other, but can you really blame them in a way? Again, Mariko is the only one who speaks Portuguese.
Yeah.
We're going to be using the quotations a lot in this, to an extent that she can actually communicate with him. He can't communicate with anyone else. In a way, it's like he's on a deserted island and she's the only other person there to talk to. Yeah. So why they're getting as close as they are. And to an extent, some people look at it's like, well, you're never seen without your interpreter. And I'll just say I suck at learning foreign languages. So if I was in the situation, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not going outside without my interpreter. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, they do have an excuse.
Yeah.
A valid excuse.
But at the same time, you see their relationship growing. These two actors have incredible chemistry. The scene where he's offered the prime courtesan, Kiru, whatever her name.
I can't remember her name, but yeah.
Yeah. And you get that intense scene of Mariko translating, but she stops using these she says, and just starts translating I want, I am. And it's very bold and it's very well done.
The chemistry between them is very good, but more importantly, I think, is the time and care that the show takes in developing their relationship. It's not, moderately attractive people, we must immediately
be in a relationship,
fall in love. Yeah. It starts a little bit antagonistic where he's, frustrated at times, and she's, why am I burdened with the knowledge and the ability to translate? Because I really don't want to be around you. It's not grossly antagonistic, but there's friction, but it's the kind of friction that breeds interest rather than repels. And they take their time, and they spend time together. They get to know each other. It's so often these things are rushed, or Buntaro would have been presented as an utterly irredeemable force in the narrative, and he's not. Yeah, they're not happy in their marriage. And he's, gets drunk and at one point smacks her around, and no one presents this as good. He knows he's screwing up.
Mhm.
I mean, he goes to Toranaga after that and is like, forgive me, what do I have to do about this? And Toranaga has to play marriage counselor for just a minute or two there.
They could have changed it and had Montaro run away
Yeah.
from the pillagers and shown him as a coward, just really painted him
Yeah,
as
not
a
after that
good-
last stand.
No.
No, Buntaro is a certified badass. He's the most
Mhm.
badass character in this show, pretty much.
And it's so refreshing to watch writing that is respectful of all of those aspects and respectful of the characters and the dynamics at play.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been a comical scene, but there's the tea ceremony that they share in it's the start of episode 9.
Yeah, where he's trying to sort of fix their relationship.
Yeah,
And-
fix it before he suggests they both commit suicide.
Yeah, then he suggests that, and she sashe you still don't get
Who
it.
wrote this show? Yukio Mishima? Sorry, very inside joke for Japanese literature fans.
But she then tells him at some point, like, you still don't get it. I never wanted death. I wanted to be away from you.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of line that with glib writing or glib acting is just, again, it's just cutting and stupid almost. Here, because we've seen so much of these characters and because the actors are doing such a good job understanding the relationships at play, it's soulful and heartbreaking because he's been trying for years to be a good husband, to be a good father, to make this work, and she's just not interested. And it's not that, he is some irredeemable character. He's very much not. In fact, by the end of where the show ends, he's had a decent enough kind of coming back around to being someone more that we understand.
Yeah, he's kind of like Worf from Star Trek.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when it comes to like
Good
honor
comparison.
and fighting, he's, like you'll find no one his equal. But as a family man, despite his best efforts, he's terrible at it. He's a fighter, not a lover. And
Yeah.
and I do like how he struggles with it. Like you see, like he wants to do the right thing and be good.
Yeah, if he were, and again, a bad show or bad writing would have painted him as just a controlling, manipulative jackass.
And again, it would have painted him as a coward. It would have shown that he, took off running.
And he's none of those things in this show. He's a fully realized, fleshed out character with a heart. And when he's sitting there realizing that, this woman that he does love to one degree or another and has been trying to do right by her is just like, she never wanted this marriage. She looked at it as kind of beneath her station because when she was married off, it was technically a step down. Correct me if I'm wrong there, David.
Mhm.
I'm not sure, but yeah, it's something like that.
Again, we're not talking like insultingly lower, but it was it
was beneath her station, but not like super beneath her station. I always got the sense that she was just more like she just didn't like him. Like it's just this is not the man I want to be with, and I'm not happy about this.
And like it never clicked, and everything falling apart for them. Again, it could have been like a joke. It could have been something where we're cheering it on, and it's not. It is treated as serious and somber, and bless everyone involved for it.
Yeah. Well, the first time we meet.
I'm sorry.
The first time we meet Buntaro is like it's when Mariko's saying goodbye to her son, and he's being all very cry and mopey and sensitive, and then Buntaro just comes up and it's like, suck it up and stop crying like a woman and take it like a man sort of thing, which is part of what a father's supposed to do. Just he kind of took it a bit too far. And that kind of like gets established, sets off like the character. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Alexis.
Sorry, I didn't mean for us to keep butting heads there on trying to get a word in edgewise.
Oh, we do it all the time. Welcome to the podcast. Yeah.
I also got the feeling that Buntaro, while he does love Mariko, I got the sense that he didn't really want the marriage either. I get the feeling he took her as his bride because he was told to. I have a feeling that had Mariko's family never been in this kind of situation, he may never have gotten married.
Oh, and in this section of Japanese society at the time, arranged marriages were the norm. It's all the typical, like Europeans did it too. It's all politics, alliances and the like.
Yeah, so often he just basically, again, it feels like when he's talking to Mariko, when they're talking there, it doesn't feel like you're looking at my wife the wrong way. It's more like, that's mine. You need to stop. It feels more like she's his property, and he just doesn't like that someone else is touching his property. It has nothing to do with
especially a foreign
wanting Maruko.
barbarian.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with wanting Maruko's love. He could care less that if she loves him or not. He just wants the Anjin to, shut up.
Yeah, he doesn't like Blackthorn, and yeah, he's just, again, he's a very honorable man, and he like takes his duty very seriously, and it's sort of interesting because like as much as Blackthorn was poking fun at the small size of sake cups, they are that size for a reason. And the idea is it's to control your consumption, whereas like if you cannot pour from the flask into the cup anymore, you've had enough, sir, time to go home. And Buntaro like objects, like, no, like, we do this for a reason. And it's, and as he gets more and more drunk, he becomes, he gets pushed farther and farther, and things turn ugly. And you even see like when Blackthorn chases him down, and and Buntaro could just like kill him in the middle of the street easy. Like Blackthorn has no gun.
No, at that point he has the gun. At that point he has his pistols back.
Oh,
that's what he's menacing with. Oh. Yeah, that's what he menaces him with at that point.
Okay, maybe I forgot that one. I will defer to that.
It's okay. It's a relatively minor point. It doesn't come. He points it at him, but he doesn't use it.
Yeah, but he like removes his sword, places it on the ground in front of him, and like sits down in a very formal posture, and he like bows and says, "I am sorry, like I had too much to drink." And in even modern Japanese culture, that is used a lot. Is like, it's kind of funny, like because again, Japanese culture is very much about getting along, like being the homogeneity, and but one way that you can sort of let it out is through drinking. Like, if you're having a drink and you say something that you shouldn't, then you can just be like, the next day you'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I had too much to drink. It's like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, everybody knows it's what you were really thinking, but it's just you have the social excuse of like, oh, I was too drunk, I wasn't in control of myself, and I said something inappropriate. But again, like we see Buntaro is like, I did wrong. Like he was serious. He wasn't doing that to get out of things. It was him honestly saying like, I'm sorry, I lost control. And I was in the wrong.
I think it was like, I apologize for disturbing the harmony of your household.
So, yeah,
something to that effect.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. It's completely sincere because this is what he's feeling and what he should be doing.
And that's the culture. Like he was he was a guest in Blackthorn's house.
He was a guest in his wife's house in a way.
Well, she was also a guest in Blackthorn's house, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to another actor here. Tadanobu Asano plays Kashigi.
Both my favorite characters.
Yeah, Kashigi Yawoshige. Who's also. Yeah, so David, Robert and I were talking about this before you came on the show.
Yep.
We were talking about, I didn't realize at first that's the actor who played Hogan in the 3 Thor movies.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And also played Raiden in the new Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
Yeah. Next to Tadanobu Asano, he's like he is the other like sort of really big Japanese star in this production.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a I saw, again, this is another guy who started getting a bit of praise coming out of this for good reason, because boy, is there an art to playing a self-centered, like duplicitous political operator and not having everyone hate you. Like there's a real art to being charming in that kind of role, and he nails it. But some of us
he's also kind of the closest to a scenery chewing character in the show.
Oh,
he's the one that gets to act out a lot more.
Yeah, he's the expressive one. He's the, when things don't go wrong, it's not, oh boy, it's yes, son of a. Again, it's not quite. It's never over the top. It might seem over the top only in comparison to everyone else around him being very more stoic and subdued. But I mean, my introduction to Asano was, he plays the lead, the character we primarily follow, in a very weird movie that I don't recommend unless you've got a taste for the extreme. But it's by Takashi Miike, which should tell you everything you need to know. No, he plays. He doesn't play Ichi, but he plays the lead in Ichi the Killer. In fact, if you look up the poster for that, you see a character who's got like scars all over his face. And
was that a Kazuo Koike manga it was based off of?
I think it was, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is just, it's hard to top insanity with that combination. Holy
No,
smokes.
again, like Mika is out there already.
You know, I shudder that when we get this over to a segment of this over to Mark for TikTok, and he's going to do the automatic subtitles. What the hell? It's going to try to make sense of everything we're saying tonight.
Best of luck.
But no, he's easily my favorite character too. Hell, one of my favorite scenes. It's a minor note, but I love when he's trying to teach the Anjin how to bow properly. It's just like, no, like this, like that, just so bombastic, and I love that.
Yeah, he is a wonderfully charming piece of crap. And
I mean, he starts off by boiling a man alive.
And somehow we come back around to like enjoying this character on screen. It's a remarkable trick of writing and acting that we don't spend every waking minute with that character wishing for his death.
Yeah, well, I love the way that he sort of have this running sort of theme with him where he has this obsession with death.
Yeah,
and like how to die, and like the bit where the son like slips on a rock and smashes his head in, and he's like, oh, that's not on my list. Like that, we should put that. That's a good one. But where should we put? Well, it's better than eaten alive by dogs, but maybe not as good as being boiled alive. And
he's working on a list.
Yeah, and then like he's like protecting his will, like his death poem.
I mean, to the point where when he's ordered to commit suicide at the end, he says, don't let me, not like that. Give me any other method of dying.
Yeah.
He has like 3 different options.
Yeah, he's like, don't let me be like pulled apart by dogs or boiled alive and torn
out. Oh no, he says, feed me to a pack of man-eating fish, or let me be torn apart by cannon fire. And Toranaga says, I don't trust you.
Well, no, he says like, those are all great ideas, but I don't have the time.
Yeah, it is. It's so great. Like this guy, he's more than willing to accept his death, but he doesn't want it to be mundane.
Yeah,
and
to his credit, like when they get to the end where like he has his big heart-to-heart with Toranaga, and we sort of get to see Toranaga's like true intentions revealed, and he keeps asking him questions, and Toranaga just goes like, what use does a dead man have for knowledge of the future?
Yeah,
and it's time to go. Line. And like because like the way that seppuku is done, like the ritual suicide that practiced by samurai and lords, is like you take a knife and you plunge it into your belly and you just start to cut across. But of course, this is incredibly painful, and you start screaming despite how disciplined you are, and it's very, very, very unsightly for those in attendance. It's going to spoil the after party. So you have a second person, literally called the second, which is generally like a very close friend or person you hold in high esteem. It's considered quite an honor to get that job, and they take the sword and they cut your head off before you like lose your cool. So it's kind of you have demonstrated that you are willingly able to kill yourself, and so now we grant you sort of the mercy of ending the pain there. It's quite impressive that because when he is ordered to commit seppuku, he asks for Blackthorn to be his second, which is a terrible idea because Blackthorn definitely does not have the skills. Like I'm all like team Buntaro for my second. Like that guy, he'll get it done clean and quick.
It goes back.
There is an art
back to that.
To cut it. There's an art to sword play like that to get through. It is a great disservice of the entertainment industry that they make decapitations look as easy as they do, because it is not that easy.
Yeah, like I've done Tameshigiri, like the sword cutting of like the rolled up wet bamboo mats, because apparently that's a pretty good stand-in for a human body, and yeah, like for all you
for a second. I was terrified you were going to say I've done that, and you said that, and I was like, please tell me he's going to clarify, because someone watching this is going to think you've chopped someone's head off.
Oh no, I have not. I've never cut flesh with a sword. Only bamboo. But yeah, this is a method that was used to like test swords or practice cutting, because it was close enough to
how many bodies does how many was it they called blades like by the body count that you could get through.
Yeah,
so you get like legend has it there's like 3 body blades or anything that you could like strap people horizontally and then just go straight down the middle, which is more chopping than cutting, and not again legend.
Yeah, for those of you that are interested in learning more about sword testing, read the manga Samurai Executioner. Though I will warn you, it's Kazuo Koke. So it's a bit batshit crazy and out there, but there's some interesting knowledge in there. But back to this. So yeah, like katanas are not like lightsabers. They do not cut through everything like butter. It's you need technique.
You
They are
can't
still
tell
very
me
sharp
that-
and dangerous.
You can't tell me anime has lied to me like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
now we
so-
need to we need to see somebody do an edit of a scene of Shogun, but they add the digital effects to make all the katanas into lightsabers now.
Oh, I'm sure someone.
I'm
will
sure
do
it
that.
exists.
It needs to exist.
But yeah, it's there's definitely an art to cutting with a sword, and yeah, you don't want an amateur to be doing that. But back to Yabushige, like so yeah, usually when they take out the blade and they put it in, especially in movies, like there's that moment of hesitation, like when Mariko has to do it. She's like, I've got the blade up against me, and it's just summoning that last ounce of motivation to kind of plunge it in. Yabushige, he just like pulls his knife right out of the scabbard and then boom, right into his chest. Like not a moment's of hesitation. And then he just turns around and looks up at Toranaga like, go ahead, do it. And just,
almost with a smile on his face. It's
Yeah.
so great.
yeah, it's like, check that out. Was that badass or what? And yeah, like, and it's nice that he wasn't all talk. Like when it came for his death, he made his death as awesome and on his own terms as he could, and
Yep.
like it was a great end for that character.
But yeah, talking about the seppuku reminds me a lot of the story that we get when we see the flashback of Toranaga's first victory.
Yeah,
And the warlord says, "I want to be seconded by the what did he call him? The boy warrior or something like
something
that."
like that.
Warlord.
Yeah, because like Toranaga's like 12 at this point.
And his brother says that he took it off with one stroke, and later they're talking, and Toranaga's like, "Yeah, one stroke, my ass. It took 9."
Yeah, it was-
He's
yeah.
talking with Hatsumoto about it, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
his response is before Toranaga confirms like it was 9. Again his like old best friend, slightly older than him, like almost a mentor figure, is kind of just, oh yeah, what a mess you made that day.
I can imagine.
What idiot gets a 12-year-old boy to second him?
Poor decision, very poor.
Yeah, he was a bad strategist up till the very end.
It really was.
Although that was a really great scene between Toranaga and his mentor, just kind of just like, yeah, I can't believe my brother still tells that lie. Speaking of which, I'm just gonna say it. The actor who plays Toranaga's brother, let me see here, Ita Okuno plays Saiki Nobutatsu.
Mhm.
I swear I have never seen an actor who looked more like he was cut out to play a villain. Just everything about that guy just screamed, wow, you look like you just came from an 80s cartoon where you're playing a world-conquering sorcerer with absolutely no compassion whatsoever. You just look so evil.
Not to be indelicate, but there's a time he would have been the perfect candidate to play the Manchurian in the MCU.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like he's got just the screen presence and the visual, and then you get like the way the light hits his face and everything. Like,
Yeah.
that's the vibe he gives off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even then, I absolutely love the whole bit with it. The fact that he agrees to his brother's terms, says, "Okay, but first we're gonna get drunk and we're having a good night." And he has this wonderful night. And he gets to take advantage of the best courtesan, and they're having great food. And then he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm screwing you over, by the way." Just, oh my God.
Yeah,
It's like
this is the
something
deal
out of
I
the-
got. You got anything better? Nope.
Yeah, it's almost like something out of a classic Greek tragedy.
Mhm.
In a way, the fact
Very
that
much
he
so.
willingly
probably
took
the-
advantage of his brother's hospitality.
Yeah, like this is probably the closest thing I've seen to Game of Thrones since Game of Thrones.
In that respect, yeah.
Yeah, like as far as the political machinations and yeah, the wait, what just happened moments. Yeah, it's very solid political drama.
That's
That
actually
same
something I
scene,
wanted to talk
I
about.
did get a kick out of, because this is after Toranaga's son has used cannon fire to kill some vassals of Ishido's.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, because you have the Council of the Regency here, which are
Yeah.
basically the like 5 most powerful daimyo like lords left after the Taiko dies, and they're supposed to share power until the heir is of age. And of course, they're all staking out their own their own power bases, trying to one up each other and claim power for themselves. And Ishido seems to be the front runner of the group, who I think is based off the Takeda clan, based off of his family crest.
Yeah, and he's the guy in charge of because again they all have different regions is kind of how that breaks down.
Yeah.
And he has Osaka and so that castle stronghold is his domain. That's where he.
Yeah, like I lived in Osaka for 7 years, and I did martial arts in Osaka Castle, not the castle keep itself, but on the ground. So yeah, there were a lot of familiar sights. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I think I know where those gates are. Yeah, I mean the castle itself is actually it's a museum now. Like it's not the original structure. Like that probably burned down during the war, and they basically built a bit concrete modern building that looks like the castle on it, which is quite common for Japanese castle. But yeah, it's a good place to visit if you're ever in the area. It's got a quite nice museum in there. But yeah, it's like I know some of these places. I think I've been on that bridge.
Well, they openly said in the series that their houses fall down in Japan pretty damn easily, so I seriously doubt anything is the original there anymore.
Well, it's common to rebuild things every year. Well, not every year, but after a set period, they will kind of tear things down and then build them back up again using sort of all the original methods and plans. And it's become popular to do that with castles more these days. But So yeah, and it's just like when you have earthquakes, you learn not to build heavy buildings. And unfortunately, when the Americans did all the fire bombings of Japan, which were way worse than the nuclear bombs, by the way, it's just most of it burned down, and it took that's one of the reasons why Japan looks so modern is most of the traditional stuff got burnt down.
Because when it got rebuilt post-war, a lot of you said a lot of the old stuff. Those. Sorry, I'm kind of going back through World War II history, and I'm about near the end of the war, so there's a lot of of that.
The Pacific War is rough. Like not to take away from Europe and the other theaters, but that was rough for all sides.
There's somebody brought this up to me very briefly, talking about World War II, that reframed my understanding of the Pacific War, the Pacific Theater. It's not that there was no animosity on the European front, but you almost never got veterans coming back from the European theater of war who carried hatred for the Germans or the Italians or the Hungarians or the Romanians or whoever kind of came in and out of the way that fell apart, depending on which part of the war we're talking about. You never had any of that the same way you had people carry lifelong resentment and hatred for the Japanese people that came out of the Pacific. We don't talk about it for reasons, but there's a real argument that the Japanese Empire at that point in time committed more atrocities than the Nazis did.
Quite possibly, but
and to say nothing of all the stuff that got done again it was terrible theater of war, just horrible for all parties.
Yeah. For more on that, please listen to Hardcore History, Supernova in the East.
1,000,000% yes. If you want something a little more, if you want something a bit more granular, I always put over the World War II in real time YouTube channel, because they go week by week, and they're about to come to the end of the war. They started like 4.5 years ago, and every week, here's what happened in World War II this week in history, and Hitler just committed suicide.
Yay! But actually, as much as since we're on the topic of modern Japan and history, I would like to point out that a lot of sort of the views I think on samurai culture at this time are a bit warped by historical perception. You've probably all heard the term Bushido carried about, like the code of honor that the samurai would live by, and at this point in history, that wasn't really a thing. Like the samurai armies were basically like more like mercenaries. Yeah, sorry, I'll get you.
No, you're good. You're gonna have to correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't a big chunk of like the mythologizing of Bushido around it like started during World War II as a means of sort of further radicalizing the populace?
Partially. I'll try and condense this as quickly as possible. But during the Warring States period, which is when like the Shōgun show takes place, more towards the end of the Warring States period, like the samurai were more like mercenaries, where you would fight for a lord so long as the lord was doing good, but it wasn't at all uncommon to switch allegiances if you thought that things were going the wrong way. Like you weren't honor bound to fight for your lord, to the death, no matter what. It would be quite common for backstabbiness to happen. But once Tokugawa won and established the Tokugawa shogunate, a dictatorship, well, you kind of want law and order. And so, like, they confiscated all the weapons from the peasantry. They let the samurai keep theirs. But then they ran into the bit of a problem that, we have all these people who are highly trained in the art of warfare and very well armed. We kind of need to keep them happy. So they gave them all cushy government jobs. And so the samurai in the Tokugawa era, which lasted about 250 years roughly, about until like 1850, sort of when the shogunate fell apart. The samurai basically became more like government-sanctioned bureaucrats who wore swords more for decoration than anything else. Like you were still expected to like know how to use a sword, just in case there was a war, but it was definitely like there were samurai that like had wooden swords that looked like metal swords just because they didn't like the extra weight, so they were just ornamental. Same thing, you look at the suits of armor, like going back to the Warring States period, a lot more utilitarian towards the end of the Tokugawa, very ornamental. Like, so
yeah, I was like,
so-
taking away the weapons, wasn't that also kind of what inspired the creation of weapons like the sai and the nunchucks, because those were originally farming tools?
I think that was the idea in Okinawa. If
that's
true.
also slightly that's a little bit more like legend lore than.
Yeah, don't even get me started on the depiction of ninja. But to skip all of that, so of course, also when you're establishing a dictatorship, you kind of want to like make sure that people do stay in line. So they kind of based a lot of, that's sort of where they got a lot bit more of like codified honor and subservience to the lord. Because again, if you're the lord, if you're the government, that's what you want. But there still wasn't like Bushido was not really a thing. It was only after sort of the Americans came with the black ships and sort of forced Japan to enter onto the world stage that you like just kind of imagine what it would be like living in an isolated nation and then basically finding out that the rest of the world is like decades ahead of you technologically. There's so much more in terms of like philosophy and methods of government and so on. Like it just it would be like the world going insane. And some people did. Like some people just went like, I can't comprehend this new world. It's like the world's gone mad. What the heck? May as well join in on the fun. So it was sort of that search for like, what is it that makes Japan Japan? What is the soul of the Japanese? And it was this academic named Nitobe Inazo, who actually spent more time living in America, I think, than Japan, who sort of like studying there. And he wanted to like explain Japan to the world, and he sort of came up with this sort of like based off of sort of the old cold honor codes of conduct of the Tokugawa and the lords, this idea of Bushido. And of course, the Japanese government at the time was like, great, it talks about unquestioning loyalty to one's superiors. We'll do that. And
nothing can go wrong here, right?
Yeah. And like fun fact, what could go wrong? But fun fact, Nitobe Inazo is, I think he's still on the 1,000 yen bill, like the $10 bill in Japan. So
that's cool.
He did pretty good for himself historically.
All right, I do want to go. I want to come circle back to something you were talking about earlier, Dave. But first, I do want to talk about one of our other main characters, and that is Ishido Kazunari, played by Takehiro Hira, who
really looks like a young Ken Watanabe.
Yes! Oh my God! I thought the same thing.
First couple of times he's on screen, I'm like, wait, is that Ken Watanabe? Like,
yeah, I was like, wait, no, Ken Watanabe is way too old now to be that look like that. But I was like, I swear, I thought it was like his son or brother. They look so much alike.
Yeah.
But yes, he is easily our main villain for this. He is one of the 5 regents. He rules Osaka Castle, which basically means that it's like, oh, my domain also has the freaking heir to the next Taiko, living here. So if you attack me, you're attacking him. So good luck with that.
Again, very quick geography lesson. Like the capital of Japan at this time would have been Kyoto, but Kyoto's an inland city. And that would be where the Imperial Palace was. So Osaka is the closest major port city, most likely to Kyoto. So that would be kind of where a shogunate would establish itself. And then after Ieyasu won, he moved the capital to Edo, which is out in the west. It was the western capital of Japan, or as they say in Japanese now, Tokyo.
Yeah, that I was gonna say that's what always has thrown me is the changing of the names of the cities. Because when they talk about Edo, it's just like, wait, isn't that now Tokyo? It gets a little confusing if you're not familiar with the
but
changing.
Tokyo literally means western capital.
Mm-hmm. But no, like I said, this guy is just so evil, but so conniving, and it is very interesting. I think my favorite episode is probably episode. I guess it would be if it's episode 8 or 9, but it's when Lady Mariko essentially is told by Toranaga, it's like, you need to go to the palace, to the castle, and you need to try to leave. And if he lets you leave, then everyone else will try to leave. And if he kills you, then that proves that you're a hostage, and then that'll get everyone on my side. So it's like, yeah, pretty good chance you're not coming out of this alive.
Yeah, and again, like how daimyo established dominance over other daimyo is they would have members of their family, like kids and wives, live with them. So if you ever did decide to rebel, they could kill your family members. And like Tokugawa Ieyasu, like Toranaga, that's where he grew up. Like he was a hostage of another daimyo through most of his early life.
Yeah. Again, very similar to what they did with Game of Thrones, where they showed various members of the houses fostering their children with others.
This is a long-standing historical tradition across all kinds of cultures.
Theon Greyjoy is an excellent example of that in fiction.
And again, human nature allows this to be a very successful bit of political machinations across all kinds of cultures throughout all of history. So,
but of course, Ishida's putting up the illusion that no one's a hostage. Everyone's just here voluntarily. Everyone can leave whenever they want, but really they can't. And so Mariko sent there basically to call his bluff. Like, okay, I'm gonna leave, and you have to let me leave because you say I'm not a prisoner, and if not, I'm gonna kill myself, and there's gonna be hell to pay because I'm kind of an important person.
Yeah, it's basically like it's like this is going to go one of 3 ways. 1, he'll let you go. B, he doesn't let you go and you have to kill yourself. C, he kills you as you try to leave. Again, 2 of these 3 options, you die. And just the scene of her walking through to the front of the castle with the arrows, just barely missing her feet.
Yeah.
Just, oh my God. And just watching, and everyone's watching from above. You have Blackthorn and oh my God, Yamashige and the other regions up there, and they're just like, and they're just terrified of what's about to happen.
Slightly complicated here, also because Mariko has converted to Catholicism. There's a nice little sub feud going on here because at the time this is not too shouldn't say not too terribly long. Given the history of England, not too terribly long after the England has rejected Catholicism and the Church of England has been established.
Henry VIII and the divorce with Catherine of Aragon.
Yeah, this is one of those inaccuracies that potentially, because I do believe that like Japan was not very welcoming of Christianity. Like, again, if you're a dictatorship, you don't really like people to pray to a god that exists above you in the pecking order. You want to be the god. So they actually preferred to trade with the Dutch because the Dutch weren't interested in pushing religion.
Yeah, and again, but kind of at play here is that the Dutch were. I'm gonna have to double check my European history on this one, so nobody quote me. But at one point, Blackthorn talks with Toranaga about the line of demarcation. It's the Treaty of Tartus.
Hang on. Yeah, I've got it up on here on the.
Feel free to look. It's referenced there.
Treaty of Tordesillas.
Sure.
Tordesillas. Pronounce that however you want.
Where's it located? I can tell you, believe it or not. If the city has a geographical. So that'd be Tordesillas.
Tordesillas.
Yeah, so again, for the minor historical context here, Spain and Portugal don't get along. They're both trying to, this is again, Age of Exploration stuff. They're out there exploring. They're claiming things for God Golden Country. And they keep running into each other and it keeps not going well. And the two ruling families basically said, we need to figure this out because we don't want this to go any worse. And they basically got the Catholic Church to sort of intervene and mediate their negotiations. And the Pope at the time drew what is called the line of demarcation. It goes all the way around the world, and it was everything east
Everything
of this.
to the east went to Spain. Everything what it didn't go all the way around the world because the treaty had to be redone years later because they realized, oh shit, the world's not flat. But everything
initially it's straight. And
yeah, but everything to the east was Spain, everything to the west was Portugal.
It's actually why Portugal got Brazil, and that's why Brazilians speak Portuguese, and everywhere else in South America speak Spanish. Well, pretty much. Some of the other northern ones, a few of them are actually English dominant because they did more stuff with the Caribbean. But again, that's why, because at the time, kind of all they'd found was Brazil, and that was the one that like distinctly stuck out from the line. So the Portuguese were like, "Hey, this is ours." And if you wrap that line around the globe, when you realize it's a globe, Japan does technically fall in the Portuguese side of things. So,
yeah, which also adds to Blackthorn because the way he sees it, Japan obviously would be a rich, wonderful country to trade with, and he's not exactly a fan that he's got to go through Portuguese and the Catholics.
So again, at this time, there's a lot of friction between the budding Protestantism, especially now that England has completely embraced it, and Catholicism. And it's not like that particular bit of conflict lasted, hundreds of years and influenced all kinds of other major wars or anything throughout human history.
Are you kidding me? My family is former Catholic. Okay, it's still going on.
But again, to David's point, like he's right that the Japanese not terribly accepting of Christianity. That was ugly for a long period of time.
So one thing that I do want to talk about, we keep going back to this, and it was something that I was reading in an article about the series, and it talks about Game of Thrones. See, now I'm sure you guys remember this, that when Game of Thrones came out, and it was the It series, before the season that we do not speak of, everyone was trying.
Before it couldn't stick the landing.
Yeah. They rushed through everything.
Everyone was trying to emulate it, but they were trying to emulate it by banking on the fantasy element. But the fact is, that is not what made Game of Thrones so good. Dragons were not this, the landing point for Game of Thrones. What made it great was that George R. R. Martin is a student of history, and he and he was very much inspired by the War of the Roses, which heavily influenced the fight for Westeros.
Yeah, and medieval food and heraldry. Come on, like read any one of the Song of Ice and Fire books. You know the two things of medieval world that he loved the most. Every meal is described in explicit detail, and every banner.
That's why there's a million Game of Thrones cookbooks.
I mean, it does sound good.
Some of it, yeah, for sure.
Check out Binging with Babish. He actually has done, I think 3 separate videos that's just dedicated entirely to the food that you see on the show. I know he did a big thing about, I think the character is called Hot Pie, who escapes with Anya and Gedry and opens up his own restaurant. You see all the food that he's preparing. Yeah, I think there was a whole episode about his dishes. But anyways, the article talks about how this show, Shōgun, got right what Game of Thrones really put down, and that is the historical accuracy, and that is the focus on the political machinations of these characters. It is not just a celebration of, oh, look, pretty Japan. Oh, look, samurai swords. Oh, look, kimonos and all of that stuff. Although, yes, the costuming is absolutely amazing. The fight scenes are brilliant. I would love to know who the fight choreographer was, because I could just imagine the boot camp putting these actors through with properly holding their swords and their weapons.
They did pretty good. I mean, they like Chambara has been a genre of Japanese cinema and TV for decades. Like they're actors that know how to stage fight. Is it accurate to the original sword techniques? Not quite, but it works.
It's one of those things that's probably most people are just going to go, it's close enough, unless you're really in the weeds and want to be nitpicky about it, and in which case
But like if
Bless
Toshiro
you.
Mifune was still alive and in this, like nobody would be telling that guy how to hold a sword. Like the man knows what to do on camera with a sword.
Mhm.
1,000,000%. But I got a kick out of the one scene where Blackthorn wields the sword
Hmm.
because he's clearly trained more with like rapier or cutlass.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
like he holds it like a
He
fencing
holds it
foil.
yeah, and it's like boink, knocked out of the hands.
And yeah, because it's with Yabushige, who immediately just like, no, hold it properly. And two
Yeah.
hands then, okay.
Yeah. And that's another thing I love about Blackthorn is that even when he doesn't understand the language, he's a very observational learner and he can pick up the body language of what his other characters are saying. He's like, because he sees the way that Yabushige is holding, he's like, oh, two hands, two hands. He doesn't need a translator. He knows
Yeah.
what he's trying to tell him.
Yeah. Again, he doesn't know the finer points of how to grip the sword, but yeah, he's doing his best to duplicate what he's seeing. Just on a side note, on the note of Blackthorn learning, like I do appreciate how he does develop his Japanese over the course of the series. He's not fluent by the end, but you can tell that he's kind of mastered the basics, and he can kind of talk a bit more with people and get by. Like when he meets Lady Okia, whatever her name is, she's like, "Oh, like I hear you speak Japanese." He's like, "Yes, but please speak slowly and use simple language." He's like, "Ah, a pre-prepared
Phrase.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, been there myself a few times.
Yeah.
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 Yukuri hanashite kudasai.
Yeah, it's like any of us who have gone to a foreign country that doesn't speak English, I think it's like, please speak slowly. I'm still learning the language is the first thing you learn how to say.
Like I do like how pretty much all the characters in this show make sense.
Mhm.
Even when they make bad decisions, I understand where they're coming from. I understand why they're doing this. There's no person who's just being crazy for the sake of being crazy because the writers need stuff to happen. Like it's, and like that's really refreshing nowadays.
No kidding.
Yeah. But
there's
anyway,
so
so
much you can so much in modern television. It's one of the reasons I'm happy to be on this show and wanted to be on it is it's so nice to talk about something that's just unambiguously good. It's well made, it's well acted, it's well written. Like there's just nothing. There's very few things to legitimately gripe at and pick at as far as criticisms go. I mean, there's a
absolutely.
few, but it's just so nice to see something made with such care. Like it's great in that respect, and a breath of fresh air from most of what we've been getting for the last like 5-6 years. And it's just so nice to talk about something good.
Yeah, I mean they found a classic novel that like people enjoyed, and they just adapted it faithfully to film. That's it. That's all you have to do. Take this thing that people already like and give money for, and make it into the new thing for the same reasons.
Not to mention properly paying respect to the culture. Again, they could have very easily done this like, okay, so we need Japanese actors who speak English. And, they really could have ruined this. They could have made it very 1980s, 1990s.
But the other thing that they could have done is the thing that so many, especially historical dramas these days, watch any historical drama or watch any fantasy, a lot of fantasy series where they try to make everything look like modern London in terms of casting and group makeup and everything, and which is terrible. Like, just don't do that if we're doing something that's meant to be historical. Like, historical context matters. If you want to have a metropolis where you can find pardon the expression, all the colors of the rainbow, that's fine, nothing wrong with that, but don't set it in 1600s Osaka. And thankfully no one here
or
did.
Modern day Osaka.
True.
Look, I've lived there. 98% of the population is Japanese. Like, and if you're not, you stand out.
I think actually, if you look at, someone did there was a census data bit released that actually like the most immigrant, the nation that has immigrated to Japan the most for some reason recently is Brazil. Actually, Brazil and Japan have a long history of. It's weird. There's a lot of like cross-cultural stuff there. There's a large contingent of Japanese people who moved to Brazil for a while, and there's a lot of like even more recently we're dealing with like a lot of people who are, my father's Japanese, my mother's Brazilian, and that was a big thing. So there's a lot of overlap there for some. Again, I couldn't tell you the exact reasons why, but there's a lot of overlap there. But again, like this is 1600s Japan. It looks like 1600s Japan. thumbs up, man. Some people just miss even clearing that hurdle these days.
Yeah, well, I think Hiroyuki Sanada, I think who's a producer on this, he said that
He
one of the big
was.
reasons that he did the project is he wanted to sort of show Japanese culture to the world.
Yeah. And once again, big thumbs up. Bless him. He did it. And again, minor gripes aside, very successfully. So thumbs up.
Yeah.
My concern, though, is that similar again to how we saw Game of Thrones with all the knockoffs who decided to just take the lazy way out of taking what they thought were the key elements of the show and basing the show around that. I do worry that we're going to see an influx of historical dramas coming out soon, that they are really going to miss the point of what made Shogun so good.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like they called John Carter of Mars John Carter because the films Ghost of Mars and Mission to Mars both tanked at the box office. So obviously people don't like films with Mars in the title.
With the exception of The Martian.
If there's one thing history has shown us repeatedly, it's that Hollywood will always take the wrong lesson from success.
And the easy way out. Very true. But yeah, I am predicting we're going to start seeing a lot of historical drama. It wouldn't even surprise me if we see more of them taking place in Japan. Because we already know a lot of studios are saying, so what's popular right now? Shogun. Okay, let's do something like that. And they probably never even watched a single episode.
Well, not only that, again, if we're just kind of projecting forward here, if you look at a lot of the, how do I phrase it? I mean, we've mentioned manga artists here a few different times. Mm-hmm. Manga and anime has become a giant chunk of the entertainment consumption here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And bear in mind, no one who's actually making any of this stuff over here is having the self-reflection to go like, why are the young people gravitating towards, Demon Slayer, for want of a better example off the top of my head at the moment, especially even though that ended a couple of years ago.
The anime is still ongoing. So
yeah, the manga's finished, but the anime's ongoing. You're correct.
Yeah, are you kidding me? Demon Slayer cosplays are the number one cosplays at the Comic Cons because they just literally buy the jacket of their favorite character and wear it over all black.
Okay, yeah. So it's become the Naruto headband of this.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, but the point being, like, why would no one's like examining why is this bit of medium? What's going on here that is resonating with people? Whereas so much of the stuff we're putting out is falling flat on its face. There's no like discussion about the craft or why self-contained stories rather than stuff that serializes for 120 years is maybe not the best idea to going forward to try and onboard new people.
Except for One Piece.
Well, sure, but One Piece is One Piece.
Yeah, but no, seriously, just go to any anime convention. You're going to play a fun little game called Count the Tanjiros.
It's not a fun game that you can play.
I wouldn't at all be surprised if we start seeing more live-action attempts to adapt manga and anime properties.
Netflix in particular has been trying. They've failed like 4 times. They have 1 success.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give them credit. Like, One Piece is like probably the hardest thing I could ever think of adapting, and they did it.
We gave it a glowing review.
Hey, this is what, and I can tell you why fairly simply, because Eiichiro Oda insisted on still having final say over everything. And
again, keep what made the original thing popular, and it'll still be popular. Like, this is how like the early phases of the MCU were successful. Were they page by page story accurate to the original comics? No, but they knew the characters, they knew what made them work, and they put that into the films.
Or how about we try Cowboy Bebop but rewrite all the dialogue so it's Joss Whedon-esque and everyone wants to die by the end of it.
I still remember
turn one of the most badass villains into a whiny daddy's boy.
God, and then bring in Edward in the last second and realizing this is why this doesn't work.
The one part of the show where they were like perfectly accurate to the original, and it's frickin' Edward.
I know.
Edward Wong de Pupalarutsky the Fourth.
Yeah, Robert, I remember us reviewing that and just talking about it's like this is why this failed, because even though that is the one part that is accurate, it is so horrible trying to mix that with the way that they built up the rest of that series. It just is so out of place.
But to kind of go back to like why is manga being so dominant right now in the in literal space. There was a story of like when a bunch of like, I don't know if it was engineers or business people, the American car companies like GM, Ford, whatever. They went over to Japan to meet with Toyota to find out like why Toyota was just like killing it with, producing so many great cars for such a low cost. And they asked them like, where did they learn how to do this? And they said like, we learned, we consult the book, they called it. And the book was like the book by Henry Ford and how he did the Model T production line. Like, it's like we have to go all the way to Japan to find out that these people are just like, they just took the basics of what worked and improved upon them constantly over and over and over again. And now they've lapped us now that, we're just, doing stupid stuff. And I think anime and manga, which, yeah, I mean, there is some cultural differences in terms of storytelling, but overall, it's just meat and potatoes, good storytelling. Like, have multi-dimensional characters with arcs that are just characters. You're not trying to push any sort of political ideology or anything on them. Like, it's just basic good storytelling.
It also helps that there's a filter in place. Like, there's a lot of bad manga. Just in case
yes, yes. Godwin's law is extra true for anime and manga. Let me tell you.
Oh,
Just the cream rises to the top, guys.
But there is that filtration system. So by the time it gets to us, it looks like everything's great. When if you get closer to the source, you start seeing how everything filters out.
Yeah. We're getting all the most popular, successful stuff already. But
getting back to the point there, like, I think you're probably right. We're going to see more things that are going to try to riff on this in one form or another.
Yeah, that and video game adaptations.
Yes, that's probably another thing that's going to be coming.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think we'll get more riffs on stuff trying to do this Shōgun style. I imagine, if Ridley Scott hadn't so recently ruined it, you could get a great miniseries about Napoleon that sadly we won't get because, again, Ridley Scott and Napoleon kind of poisoned that well for a little bit.
Maybe the French will come up with something.
One can hope.
Yeah.
But we're probably due like a Zulu remake, so that might take on something in this style.
Yeah, like I know the producers of the show have said that we've done the book. Like, yes, there's more Japanese history that we could use to base future events in this universe on, but it would not be James Clavell's Shōgun anymore. It would be us just taking these characters and doing our own thing with them. And part of me wishes that this team would kind of do like another historic Japanese epic series sort of thing, like just kind of do their own. We're just gonna do a Game of Thrones Shōgun style Warring States period drama series. I'd be totally down for that. But yeah, I think I do admire that they're at least like, we told the story from beginning to end. We're faithful to the original. It was great. We're just we're gonna leave it here because flowers are flowers because they fall.
I respect the artistic integrity of that.
But yeah, kind of like becoming the next, like what Ryan Murphy is with horror and serial killers, doing that with historical dramatizations.
Yeah, and like one last thing I have to give props for is the opening to this show. I thought was one of the best I've seen. Like,
it's so good. Never skip it. Never skip it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. It's up there with like Game of Thrones and Peacemaker for very different reasons, but
true. Very true.
What is beautifully crafted with a brilliant score. The other one features John Cena dancing to a Norwegian glam band.
Yep, but damn it, if it's not just perfect.
It really is. Again, you've done the opening right when nobody skips over it, and this was a beautiful opening. So I'm with you on that one.
The way that it just like builds up and then it crescendos and the reveal. It's one of the best TV show openings I think I've seen.
Oh, certainly in the last like 4 years, just really good stuff.
Yeah, it's just like you can just like keep going with the opening. Like I can skip an episode. Just give me like 50 more minutes of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Game of Thrones, Peacemaker, DuckTales. Never skip.
Fair enough. Yeah.
All right. So, yes, this show has gotten crazy good reviews across the board. Like I said, currently sitting at 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. where was I had the score up here. I scrolled down too far. Yeah, it's got A's across the board from Entertainment Weekly, the Chicago Sun-Times. Metacritic's got it at an 85 out of 100. USA Today and RogerEbert.com both gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars.
That's about right.
This is an amazing show. Highly recommended. All episodes are currently streaming on Hulu. If you have that, go check it out. It's really great. Any other words, any other comments that we wanted to talk about? Any other points that need to be made?
A couple of minor things technically, I suppose. Again, we touched briefly on the costuming, but it really is remarkable. Everything looks right. Everything fits right. Everything is, again, this very much feels like the real world, or a very lived in real world. So big props to the costuming. Big props to the appropriate use of visual effects. Most of this is done on location or with sets, or they go out of their way to make everything feel real. So when people are walking around, it looks like they're traveling through real places. That's real mud they're stepping through. And in a world where so much of what we see on TV is just nothing but digital, everything is green screened or on the volume, or any of those places, to see something that is just as real as it can realistically be. Again, big thumbs up to that, both for everyone who worked on the production design and for the general idea and artistic vision and direction to keep it that way. Big thumbs up to all of that. The action in this movie is sparse, but it's all very purposeful. And when this is not something that shies away from violence when violence is called for. Again, we don't get any big. I mean, this whole thing is the backdrop to the historical battle of Sekigahara, if memory.
Yeah,
if
I think it's the biggest battle in Japanese history. Yeah,
which is itself a very, like you said, a very huge battle. I hesitate to just call it the Japanese Gettysburg because one, it came before that, but also, again, I'm not sure if
it gets the point across.
For American audiences with limited historical information, that's probably the best comparison to get the point across.
Which, again, that itself is a thrilling battle. There's a mid-battle like change of sides by an important component of one of the armies. The weather plays a role because one group has their gunpowder that's still dry, whereas another does not.
Nagashino, I think that was an Oda Nobunaga battle.
Yeah, and we never see it, and I'm kind of glad that we don't in some respects, because this thing feels like it stretched its production budget as far as it was going to go, and if you couldn't make that look good, don't do it. And good call.
Yeah. We get a few like nice ninja fight things, but that's kind of about it, which is what was needed.
Yeah, there are some bits of action, and there's a bit where a group of people get massacred by cannon that does not shy away from the violence either.
Yeah.
So it's sparing, but it's meaningful, and that's the best way to use violence in action, is have it be important.
All the seppuku, and the scene that made me flinch the hardest was when the sailor was boiled alive.
That one was
a rough one.
Yeah. Just, you don't see much, but they do not shy away from his constant screams.
No, that goes on for a bit.
All right, David, any other last points before we get out of here?
Yeah, like one thing I've sort of noticed through my experience with Japan is like the Japanese are overall very proud of their culture. They know it's very deep and very refined and very unique, and can be quite confusing and a pain at times, but they are very, very happy to show it to the world and to have it embraced by the world. Like like Avril Lavigne, I think, like in a video or a photo shoot or something, she wore a kimono, and in America it was rah rah cultural appropriation, how dare she? And in Japan it's just like, did you see this? Avril Lavigne's wearing a kimono and she loves Japanese culture. Oh, that's so awesome! Like,
it's like, at least it was an accurate kimono. At least she wasn't wearing sexy Japanese Halloween costume or some crap like that.
Okay, but yeah, like it's so, and I think that really shows in this show that like if you give them a budget and give them a chance, like they'll make something really nice and special to show the world, and yeah, like I think it's great that this was one of them.
Yeah, Very much.
Absolutely.
Again, I'm glad the show exists. I really am. It was a breath of fresh air. It was an absolute joy to watch. So
Yeah, it's a shame that we're not getting more of it, but I understand why, and it's the
Yeah.
right call to make. But
Definitely.
yeah, hopefully this team is able to bring us something of their own similar in the future,
yeah,
because I think they certainly deserve to keep going on.
100%.
Absolutely.
If nothing else, this is a great proof of concept for the talent of all people involved.
Yeah, definitely.
And hopefully we do see more of these actors. Again, we've been seeing Hiroyuki Sanada in various projects here in the States, but we need more of him. I want to see him in more American films. I want to see more of what he can do, you know? All right, so it looks like we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. David, I know that I got you coming back here before too long for X-Men 97.
Yep.
Have you been watching the episodes?
Yeah, I'm not up to date with today's episode because I'm here, but
Okay, no spoilers.
no spoil. Okay, but yeah, I mean, you could just read the comic books from like decades ago. Like,
For the
Yeah, no
for the
kidding.
record, yeah. Again, if there is a criticism to be had of X-Men 97, it's that there's a little bit of speed running going on there. They're going through a lot of material very quickly.
but
Yeah.
it's not boring. I'll say that much.
Yeah, it's like, wow, I didn't know
minimum.
I didn't know Sinister controlling Madeline as the Goblin Queen came so quickly to the E is for Extinction story arc.
Among other things.
Yeah. Still loving it. We'll be talking about that here before too long. I will also be coming back tomorrow night because this is not my only TV party tonight for this week. I will be joining Zachary Strobel to talk Knuckles on Paramount Plus. You went in on that, Robert? It's just the two of us. We got an open
Haven't
spot.
watched. I haven't seen it yet. Again, I had to get through Shōgun and had some other life.
My TV time is limited, and I had to prioritize. But I saw Sonic 2, and yeah, Idris Elba as Knuckles is just fantastic.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm always down for Idris Elba, and Knuckles is
they
always
are
a favorite
stairs.
character.
The only I saw in our review, it's like this is a character who is chewing the scenery more than Jim Carrey. What is reality?
In a very subdued way.
He's chewing the scenery, but he's chewing it the same way that something gets chewed when it's dropped from a high place onto concrete. Because Knuckles, this version of Knuckles is so wonderfully straightforward and concrete that it's charming. It winds up being charming, and I just have to throw that down to Idris Elba.
Yeah. ... God, yeah. So looking forward to that, especially since we're supposed to get the Sonic 3 trailer coming any day now.
That makes sense.
And Shadow is all the Shadow fans desperately hoping he's wielding the machine gun. Sorry, random aside there.
I don't care if he's wielding the machine gun. I want to see him drop the Chaos bands. I want to see those bands just get dropped right off of his wrist. That's what I want to see.
You can't give everything.
We'll find out.
Trailer.
All right, so we got that. We are also going to be reviewing The Offer coming up here before too long. Mark gave me access to his Paramount Plus account on the grounds that I also watched that because he's been wanting someone to talk about that here on the network for a while. So other than that, Robert, why don't you tell me where else our fans can find you?
Well, we already Monday, Mark and I got together to review Days Run Together, people, especially when you're sleep deprived. Mark and I got together and we reviewed The Fall Guy. The week before that, we reviewed The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare over on Damn You Hollywood, so you can tune into our thoughts on those movies. Damn You Hollywood has this next week off. The week after that, we'll be back for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. A franchise that I've said before, that movie and that franchise from the original all the way to now has between all of them about 1.5 bad movies collectively. It is a remarkably consistent IP, and everyone involved always seems to know what they're doing with it.
I just love that one day it's eventually going to be Rise of the Takeover, of the Destruction, of the Calamity, of the Armageddon, of the Planet of the Apes, because they're eventually just going to have to start tacking on as many words as possible.
Well, I've mentioned to some people, I think I figured out what they're doing. I think I finally figured out what they're doing with this new series. Because we've done all the Rising. Again, you have with the original trilogy, the Caesar trilogy, and now we're going far into the future for this next one. My hunch, and it's just a hunch, this next trilogy, I assume it's a set of 3, is going to end with the astronauts landing that started the original Planet of the Apes. Is kind of my hunch about where we're going with this. And to be fair, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I think in the first movie, like on the TV in the background, they were like mentioning the launch of the original mission that Charlton Heston was in.
They did.
So
there's a.
could be just an Easter egg, but
no, I remember that because I remember there's a scene right before the apes launch the first takeover. You see a newspaper and it says something like "Space Shuttle Lost" or something like that.
Mhm.
So
again, if I got a hunch, that's my hunch. That's where this is going. Is a sort of recapitulation of just Planet of the Apes, which, again, I'm here for. I have everyone involved in that whole IP for a long time has done pretty much nothing but good work. So, thumbs up there. We'll be talking that in a couple of weeks. You can also find me covering mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. I cover WWE SmackDown on Fridays, UFC events on Saturdays. If you want, so you can find those again in those respective zones. If you want to listen to me talk about MMA, I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast that record that Sunday evening, so it's usually up Monday mornings. Again, I talk all things in the world of mixed martial arts, the good, the bad, the ugly, the otherwise. And this last week, a review of UFC 301 and a preview of UFC on ESPN 56. I don't know why we're getting another Derek Lewis main event, but we are, and it's because the UFC hates its fan base. I'm fairly certain at this point, but I'll be covering it, so tune in for that on Saturday. And yeah, that's what we've got coming up. If any of that interests you, you can find me. Yeah, you can see my Twitter handle there on the screen. It's at Winfree MMA. I'm an anodyne follow, I promise.
all right, David. Other than X-Men 97, do I have you coming back for anything else that I have forgotten to write down?
Well, I'll probably be back for Hell of a Boss season 3, whenever that happens.
That unfortunately probably will not be until either close to Christmas or January.
Yeah, I'm
they
not really
did
sure on my schedule here, but yeah.
Yes, Hell of a Boss did drop their season 2 schedule. They will be airing 5 more episodes this year. Last one playing in December called Sinmas.
Mhm.
Womp womp.
Oh, that should be fun.
Yeah, so I will get with you and Jesse when we have when that last one drops.
Yeah, whenever that happens. Otherwise, hoping to try and see if I can get out of the house long enough to see Deadpool and Wolverine, but we'll see how that goes.
To that.
Yeah. Otherwise, just kind of we'll see what happens.
All right, and other than that, time to do my plugs that actually pay my bills. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. Now, normally this would be a busy season for us convention-wise, but we've been taking the spring and early summer off, not only to do a little more focusing on the company and to conserve a little extra spending money, because I've been going over the books and finding out, guess where I spend the most money? Traveling. But also because presidential election years, we found people just aren't spending as much money as usual. So
just make Democrat jewelry and Republican jewelry.
Sell
to both sides like an arms dealer.
He is not wrong. You should do that.
I was thinking more like, oh my God, what was the name of the colonel who ran Elvis's account?
Oh yeah, I know, like the Tom Hanks character.
Yeah, about how he said how he did the
Parker?
I love how he did the I love Elvis and the and I also hate Elvis.
Elvis. Yes.
Yeah, and he's like, at least we capitalize on both fronts and we make money off of them both.
Yes, their hatred doesn't get us any. They're going to hate us anyway, but without us making profit. So this way.
Well, anyways, so right now. No, he's not. Yeah, he absolutely is. So anyway, we are actually off from the convention scene until July, which I will be heading down to Austin for the Greater Austin Comic-Con, in which I will step out of my car and burst into flames.
Until then, happens in Austin.
Usually what happens to Austin in July. Until then, both of our stores are still fully stocked on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. Hopefully, getting some more stuff here added on soon. I'm actually in the middle of working on a really big new redesign. One of our most popular items at the convention circuits has always been our video game cartridge keychains. Well, not only are we finally adding PlayStation 4 cartridge keychains, we are also completely redoing the PlayStation 1, the Nintendo DS, and the Nintendo 3DS. So I have been spending the last week and a half just churning out so many polymer clay bases. I think my husband is getting annoyed and wondering when he's going to have the dining room table back. So I've been working on that. I cannot wait to debut those new keychains at Austin and the Colorado Springs Comic-Con. That's going to be our next one after that in August. Looking forward to it. So again, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I will never call it X, and TikTok. And as always, again, our shops are fully stocked. Here's our Etsy shop that I've got open right now. We also have our Handmade at Amazon store. That is Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. So from myself, for Mr. David Wright, for Mr. Robert Winfree, thank you for joining us. Be well, be safe. Sayonara.